So if I'm going to be really honest with you guys, one of the teams that I have quite frankly thought and have even been very vocal and spoken about to have what I consider very, very bad rebuild does happen to be the Adelaide Crows. Again, I think the Adelaide Crows in the rebuild that they've had have made a ton of really bad mistakes in drafting busts and just drafting not really exactly the best players. Again, if there was any disagreements with this, I could just simply point at the ladder and say, well, they haven't made the finals since 2017, and it has been a bit of a train wreck, right? But in saying that, over the last couple of years, they do more and more every free agency and trade period. That gets me interested. Again, they drafted good players like Josh Rochelle and Thilthorpe, who are really starting to develop now as players. They traded for guys like Isaac Rankin and Jordan Dawson, who have been really, really good for their team. But also now in the most recent free agency in 2024, they went out and I think picked up a ton of really, really good players who I think should help them potentially make finals in 2025 for the first time since 2017. Now, before I do get into all of that and more, there is still a decent amount of you guys who watch these videos who have not yet subscribed to the channel. So if you could do me a massive favor and leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel for the latest AFL content and news. I guess we'll get straight into it with my complete thoughts on this, because I think they probably had a top 3 best free agency and trade period, which I haven't been able to say about the Adelaide Crows for a while. And as I said, I've disagreed with a lot of the things they've done, but now in the last couple of years, I'm starting to agree more and more. I'm starting to see what they're building on in, 2025. And now I think they're getting to the point where I believe that they could maybe make finals. Again, they didn't have the greatest list last year. They desperately needed to go out and get midfielders to the team, and that was a massive, massive priority. Again, their forward line actually looks alright. Their back line might need some work, but their midfield last year had a ton of holes. Again, Rory Sloane was a guy who unfortunately is now taken out of that midfield. Didn't play, and again, unfortunately just lost his career to injuries and was starting to get slower and starting to get older. Didn't really work. Again, they lost Brad Crouch a couple years ago, which they didn't really replace that well. They've kind of lost Matt Crouch now because he's not even half the player he was. Rory Laird at times even this season took a bit of a step back, and who knows what he's going to be like next season. So it was a big emphasis for them that they needed to go out in free agency and, help this midfield out. So what do? They go out to the GWS Giants and bring in 2 incredibly solid players for them who I think will be helping this midfield out. Again, we got Isaac Cumming, who for the Giants was a half-back / back pocket, but has said that he wants to become a wingman in the league. It seems like the Adelaide Crows have guaranteed him a spot on the wing and believe he'll push up and play that role. Again, in the inside now, of course, they did get James Peatling in, who at the start of the year for GWS kind of started as a sub, and then when we got to finals, he was a really important midfielder for them, playing as like a tagger who would run in the inside midfield and take the team's best, player. And he had a game where I think he kicked 1 goal and had 15 touches, and another game where he had 10 touches and had 2 goals. And even though the touches didn't seem, like a big number, his effort and his role was really good, and something that I think is going to go an extra step this year to now helping the Adelaide Crows. And again, the third guy now who they got to come in as probably a 50% forward, 50% midfielder, is who I think is one of the league's most underrated players, and that does happen to be Alex Neil-Bullen. Now, Neil-Bullen has been one of the most underrated players for Melbourne for a long time. He's kind of like Melbourne's Kane Lambert and Shane Edwards, who were super underrated at the Richmond Football Club. He's going to leave a massive hole for Melbourne, because even though he didn't get a whole lot of the ball when he was in the midfield, the good thing about Neil-Bullen is when he does get the ball, he is one of the best playmakers, I think, in the league. And when he does get it, he uses it to his best ability. The other thing is, he can go play as a half forward, and move up the ground really, really well and kind of act as like an extra midfielder. And he can also hit the scoreboard. So you bring in 3 guys now straight away to rotate through that midfield, replace Sloan, Laird, the Crouches, etc., who I think will put in a really, really good effort and be good players to help out. Again, Rankin will also play more midfield next season. I think Rochelle wants to play more midfield next season. They've got a really, really good rotation of midfielders who can go forward, which is really good because it adds great flexibility that the Crows haven't had in quite a while. Again, the cherry on top that they added into that really kind of depleted midfield is now Sid Draper, who some people believe is one of the best two-way ball users in the AFL draft. Again, great two-way player, offense, defense, can use it extremely well, and he's a good contested in and out player who can get you a clearance. You basically go from a midfield that has no depth to having a midfield now that you add all 4 of those players who will probably all play at least 50% of their time in midfield, but can also now rotate with Rankin and Rochelle, meaning that Rankin and Rochelle don't have to spend just so much time as a forward because there's no one else to go down there. They can now rotate and really start to set things up. Again, I think their forward line is now going to be elite with these additions, rotating through there. Their midfield is going to be much more improved now, but I think their back line still has a lot of questions. Again, I personally had the Adelaide Crows on my ladder prediction, I think finishing 10th place. Again, I didn't think they were going to be good last year. I didn't think they were going to make the 8 like a lot of people said they would. I said they're still a year or 2 away, and I absolutely ended up being right about that. And I still think they might be a year away, but I think I'm much more likely to be proven wrong this year because of the depth they have. Key forwards now like Riley Thilthorpe really coming into their own, and a 1-2 punch with Fogarty there as well. Again, Tex will still be there as like a 2nd or 3rd option. I'm not sure how good he's going to be next season. But also, they're just really building something special. And if that midfield does seem to be absolutely dominating with Draper in there, with Laird potentially, maybe even coming back and doing a little bit better, Rochelle in there, Rankin in there, Neil Bullen in there, a massive rotation and whatnot. You could even see guys like Jordan Dawson start to go back and play his original position of halfback like he did somewhat throughout this most recent season. Play even a bit more down there, be a steady defender, be a steady ball use, and help that back line, which some people might seem to be, again, a little bit of the weaker out of the 3. Again, the Adelaide Crows are seriously building something really nice. Again, do I have questions on their backline? Yes. Do I have questions on their coach? Absolutely. But do I think they're going to play some of the most exciting footy next year, who will probably have one of the best rotations throughout their midfield and forward line? Yeah, I really do think they are, and I think they're probably legitimately going to be pushing to potentially make the 8 this year. So again, I'm very interested to hear all of your thoughts and opinions on this all down below. Do you guys think the Adelaide Crows could make the 8 in 2025? Or do you guys still think there's some time off? Again, I'd very much like to know. Don't forget to subscribe to my IRL/vlogging channels and my gaming channel. Links for them will be in the description down below. And I guess I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.